Everything we thought we knew about Heartland was shaken in the final moments of Season 19. For years, Amy Fleming stood as the heart of the ranch, a symbol of hope, healing, and strength. But in a shocking twist, the story took a devastating turn. Fans who tuned in were left in complete disbelief, struggling to process the tragic ending that no one saw coming. Today, we dive deep into what really happened, and why Amy's heartbreaking fate changes the future of Heartland forever. Amy Fleming has always been more than just a character. She has been the soul of Heartland. From the very first season, we saw her love for horses, her gift of healing, and her determination to keep her mother's legacy alive. Amy grew up on the ranch, learning the meaning of family, sacrifice, and resilience. She faced challenges that could have broken anyone else, but she always stood tall, no matter how heavy the burden. One of the most defining chapters of her life was her relationship with Ty Borden. Their love story wasn't perfect, but it was real. Together they built a life filled with dreams, struggles, and joy. Fans watched them raise their daughter Lindy, and for many, Amy and Ty represented the heart of Heartland's enduring message: that family is worth fighting for. But when Ty tragically died, Amy's strength was tested in ways we could never imagine. She was left to raise Lindy alone, while still running the ranch and being there for her family. Through it all, Amy became a symbol of hope. She healed horses that no one else could reach, and in the process, she healed the people around her too. She helped Lou with her struggles, leaned on Grandpa Jack's wisdom, and tried to give Lindy a childhood filled with love despite the pain of loss. For nearly 2 decades, Amy carried the weight of her world on her shoulders. Season after season, she remained the anchor of the show. Viewers connected to her deeply, not just because of her role as a horse trainer, but because of her humanity. She was relatable. She wasn't perfect. She made mistakes, faced heartbreak, and had moments of doubt, but she never gave up. Amy embodied the idea that even in the darkest of times, there is always a light worth chasing. That's why her shocking fate in Season 19 feels so devastating. After everything Amy endured, after all the battles she fought, no one expected her journey to end this way. The tragic death of Amy Fleming wasn't just the loss of a character. It felt like the loss of the very heartbeat of Heartland. And now, the story must continue without her, leaving fans to wonder, what does Heartland look like in a world without Amy Fleming? Season 19 didn't just drop a shocking ending out of nowhere. If you look closely, the writers had been laying small clues all along, weaving a sense of unease beneath the surface of Amy Fleming's story. At first, everything seemed normal. Amy continued to train horses, support her family, and raise Lindy with the same calm strength that defined her since day one. But gradually, the cracks began to show. One of the first signs came in her quieter moments. Amy was often seen reflecting on the past, almost haunted by memories of Ty and her mother. Scenes that used to show Amy as a figure of hope and healing now carried a heavier weight. Her conversations with Jack hinted at something deeper, almost as if she was preparing for change. The writers didn't spell it out, but fans noticed her tone was different. Softer, more fragile, as if she was carrying a secret burden we couldn't yet see. Her bond with Lindy also took on a different light this season. While past episodes highlighted their joyful connection, Season 19 added a bittersweet edge. Amy seemed determined to teach her daughter lessons about strength, family, and resilience, almost as if she knew time was running short. In one scene, she told Lindy that sometimes the hardest part of life is learning how to keep moving forward when the people you love aren't there anymore. At the time, it felt like wisdom drawn from Ty's death, but in hindsight, it feels like foreshadowing of her own fate. Another clue came through Amy's work with the horses. Normally, her healing touch was steady, a gift that never wavered. But in this season, her struggles began to mirror her own inner battles. She failed with a few horses that seemed beyond her reach, and instead of bouncing back with her usual determination, she appeared shaken. It was a subtle but powerful symbol. The healer was beginning to lose her strength. The build-up also relied heavily on family dynamics. Lou and Jack noticed Amy pulling away at times, lost in thought. She insisted she was fine, But her silences told another story. Even moments of joy felt tinged with sorrow, like Amy was savoring every bit of happiness because she knew it wouldn't last. The camera lingered on her face longer than usual, letting viewers sense the unspoken emotions that were bubbling beneath the surface. Looking back now, it's clear that season 19 wasn't just another chapter in Amy's journey. It was a long goodbye. Every conversation, every lingering shot, and every emotional beat pointed towards something heartbreaking on the horizon. And when the finale arrived, all those subtle hints finally made sense, leaving fans stunned by the tragic ending that had been quietly built up all season long. The finale of season 19 didn't explode with sudden drama. Instead, it unfolded like a storm creeping in slowly, quietly, until it finally struck with devastating force. What made Amy Fleming's death so heartbreaking was not just the act itself, but the way it was delivered: raw, intimate, and painfully real. The scene began with Amy doing what she had always done best: helping a troubled horse. It was a fitting setup, because healing had been her gift since the very beginning. Viewers watched her move with quiet confidence, talking softly, her hands steady on the reins. But then, in a split second, everything changed. A small mistake, a sudden accident, and Amy was thrown into danger. The moment was quick, yet drawn out, every heartbeat pounding in the silence, every breath heavy with dread. What followed was not the loud chaos of a typical TV tragedy, but something far more haunting. The camera focused on Amy's face as she realized what was happening. There was no grand speech, no dramatic farewell, just the heartbreaking quiet of someone whose story was ending far too soon. As she lay there, her family rushed in, Jack's voice breaking as he called her name, Lou clinging to her hand, and Lindy's innocent confusion cutting deeper than any words could. The choice to strip away the usual TV dramatics made the moment even more crushing. Fans weren't given time to prepare, and neither were the characters. Amy's final moments felt painfully real, as if life itself had decided to take her in an instant, with no explanation, no warning, no mercy. It was a reminder that tragedy doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes in silence, leaving only shock in its wake. The ranch itself seemed to mourn with the family. The wide-open spaces that once symbolized freedom and healing suddenly felt empty, echoing with the absence of the person who had always been its heart. For nearly 2 decades, Heartland revolved around Amy Fleming's strength, her love, and her ability to hold everything together. And in that single, devastating moment, the show ripped all of that away, leaving fans staring at the screen in disbelief. The ending didn't just close a chapter. It tore out the foundation of the entire story. Amy Fleming was not just a character. She was the anchor of Heartland. Her death didn't just shock viewers. It left them questioning what the show even means without her. And that perhaps is why the finale feels so unforgettable. Because it wasn't just the end of Amy's journey. It was the breaking of Heartland itself. When the credits rolled on season 19, silence filled living rooms across the world. It wasn't the kind of ending that left fans cheering or even debating future plotlines. Instead, it left them numb, stunned, and almost betrayed. Social media lit up within minutes, not with excitement, but with heartbreak. Fans who had grown up alongside Amy Fleming, who had watched her fall in love, lose Ty, raise Lindy, and carry the weight of the ranch, suddenly found themselves mourning as if they had lost a real person. Some fans described the finale as too cruel, while others said it was the bravest move Heartland has ever made. The split was sharp. For many, Amy's death felt like an unthinkable decision. After everything she had survived, why end her story like this? But others saw it as the writer's way of making the show mirror life itself. Unpredictable, unfair, and brutally real. In their eyes, Amy's death wasn't just a plot twist. It was a statement about grief, resilience, and the pain of moving on. What made the impact even heavier was the length of the journey. 19 seasons is not just television. It's part of people's lives. Fans grew up with Amy, aged with her, and found comfort in her strength during their own struggles. For someone who had become a symbol of hope, Losing her felt deeply personal. The hashtag #JusticeForAmy trended across platforms with fans demanding answers, spin-offs, or even alternate endings. Meanwhile, tribute videos, fan art, and long emotional posts flooded the internet, each one trying to process the same loss. Inside the Heartland fandom, the grief was collective. Online forums turned into support groups, where people comforted each other, shared their favorite Amy memories, and revisited earlier episodes to relive the moments when she was alive, smiling, and unbroken. Some fans even said they couldn't bring themselves to watch the finale again. It was too raw, too painful. Others admitted they cried not just because Amy died, but because it felt like losing a piece of themselves. Behind every shocking moment in television, there's a room full of writers wrestling with impossible choices. Amy Fleming's death in season 19 was not just a twist for drama's sake. It was a deliberate, carefully considered decision. The question haunting fans is simple. Why would the creators take away the very soul of Heartland? One reason lies in storytelling itself. After 19 seasons, Heartland had reached a crossroad. The writers faced a challenge familiar to any long-running series. How do you keep the story alive without repeating the same arcs? Amy had healed countless horses, endured endless struggles, and carried the family through every storm. Some argue her death was the writer's way of forcing the narrative into new, uncharted territory. It was not just about ending Amy's journey. It was about shaking the foundation so that new stories could grow in the cracks. Another layer to this decision is realism. Heartland has always been grounded, showing life not as a fairy tale but as it truly is. Unpredictable, fragile, and sometimes unbearably cruel. By taking Amy, the writers mirrored the same shock fans felt when Ty died seasons earlier. Life doesn't always give you a warning, and Heartland's strength has always been its willingness to tell the truth, even when it hurts. Amy's death was more than a tragedy. It was a reminder that no one, not even the strongest, is untouchable. There's also the emotional weight to consider. Writers often talk about stakes, the risk that makes a story matter. After almost 2 decades, the stakes in Heartland had to rise. By letting go of Amy, the writers raised the emotional bar to its highest point. Fans didn't just lose a character, they lost their anchor. And that kind of grief, as devastating as it is, creates powerful storytelling for the characters left behind. Jack's wisdom, Lou's leadership, and most of all Lindy's growth will now be framed by the shadow of this loss. Of course, not everyone agrees with the choice. Some critics argue it was reckless, even disrespectful, to the fans who invested years in Amy's journey. Others believe it was bold, the only way to break free from predictable storytelling. But whether loved or hated, one truth is undeniable. Amy's death ensured that Heartland would never be the same again. And that, in the eyes of the writers, might have been the point all along. With Amy Fleming gone, the world of Heartland feels like it has lost its compass. For 19 seasons, every storyline, every challenge, and every victory seemed to orbit around her presence. Now the ranch stands at a crossroads, and the question echoing in every fan's mind is, what happens next? The first and most immediate impact is on Lindy. Amy's daughter has already endured the loss of her father, Ty, and now she must face life without her mother. This sets the stage for one of the most emotional arcs Heartland has ever attempted. Will Lindy inherit her mother's gift with horses? Will she carry on the Fleming legacy? Or will the weight of her parents' deaths push her in a different direction? The answers to these questions could shape not only Lindy's character, but the very identity of the show moving forward. Then, there's Jack. The heart and wisdom of Heartland has always been his steady presence. But now he faces the unthinkable, outliving not only his daughter Marion, but also his granddaughter Amy. Jack has always been the rock, but even rocks can crack. His grief could redefine his role, pushing him either into deeper sorrow or into an even fiercer determination to keep the family together in Amy's honor. Lou, too, will be transformed. As mayor, sister, and now guardian of her niece, Lou must balance leadership with heartbreak. The death of Amy may push her into becoming the family's central pillar, but at what cost? Her relationship with her children, her political responsibilities, and her personal happiness could all hang in the balance. Lou has always been strong, but Amy's absence might test her in ways she never imagined. The ranch itself is also at stake. Amy's connection with the horses was not just her profession, it was the soul of Heartland. Without her healing touch, what becomes of the very legacy Marion began? Does someone else step up to carry that torch? Or does the ranch risk losing the magic that made it more than just a farm? This uncertainty adds a new tension to the series. The idea that Heartland itself could fade if the family doesn't find a way to honor Amy's spirit. For the fans, the future feels both frightening and intriguing. Some believe Amy's death marks the beginning of the end for Heartland, a slow farewell after 19 unforgettable seasons. Others see it as a rebirth, an opportunity to shift focus onto the next generation, with Lindy stepping into the spotlight. What's clear is that the show will never be the same. The rhythm has changed, the tone has darkened, and the story now carries the weight of absence as much as presence. Amy Fleming may be gone, but her shadow will stretch across every frame of Heartland's future. Every decision the characters make, every challenge they face, will be haunted by the question, what would Amy have done? And perhaps that's how her legacy will endure. Not through her presence, but through the choices she inspires long after her tragic goodbye. Amy Fleming's journey was never about perfection. It was about resilience, love, and the unshakable bond between family and the land they call home. For 19 seasons, she stood as the anchor of Heartland, a woman who healed not only horses, but hearts. Her tragic death in season 19 was more than just the end of a character. It was the breaking of the very heartbeat that carried the show for nearly 2 decades. And yet, in that heartbreak, lies her legacy. Amy's story reminds us that even the strongest are not invincible, and that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that mirror real life. Unpredictable, unfair, but unforgettable. Her absence reshapes Heartland, forcing every character and every fan to confront the reality of loss. But it also leaves behind something beautiful, the lessons she lived by: courage, compassion, the belief that no matter how broken something seems, healing is always possible. As the family at Heartland Ranch moves forward, Amy's spirit will not disappear. It will linger in every field, in every horse, and in every decision Lindy makes. She may no longer be with us, but her influence will ripple through the story, ensuring that her presence is never truly gone. The future of Heartland may look different, darker even, but it will always carry the imprint of Amy Fleming's light. For fans, the pain of this ending is real, because Amy was more than a fictional character. She was a companion, a source of strength, and a reminder of the beauty of simple, quiet resilience. Losing her feels like losing a part of ourselves. But perhaps that's the final gift of her story, to teach us, just as she taught Lindy, that even when the people we love are gone, their love remains, shaping us forever. Heartland without Amy Fleming will never be the same. But maybe that's the point. Because the best stories don't just entertain us, they stay with us, long after the screen fades to black. And Amy's story, though tragically ended, will live on in the hearts of every fan who believed in her, who cried with her, and who will never forget her.